Hello and welcome back to the World's Building Let's Play series with me. I am OzoneB, and in the last episode we worked on this farming area behind us with the field and the barn, and I've just been hanging around here kind of grinding stuff out and letting this all grow up. It's worked really well. I've harvested a couple times, and all in all, I am just really happy with how this has turned out. I've also been working on levels, mostly from smelting up all the copper that I've been collecting and doing some enchanting whenever I can. I've got a fortune pickaxe now with fortune 2. It's not perfect, but this one, Silk Touch, Unbreaking, Efficiency, very nice. On the diamond pickaxe, we only got an efficiency 4, but one of the things that I am lacking for the most part is levels. And like I said, burning off all of the copper that I've collected, smelting it up has been one of the primary sources of XP for me for this stretch. However, if you recall, we found a zombie spawner located just over there at that pillar sticking up out of the ground. And in this episode, we're definitely going to be heading over there working with that spawner because lack of XP is a real issue for me right now as I'm trying to get things enchanted up. So let's head over there and see what we can do with that spawner and start talking about some of the ideas that I have for it. Here we are back at the zombie spawner, and you can see I've sort of made up a camp here and done a little bit of work to use this as a spawner once before. This is a very rudimentary farm. I added these magma blocks to help kill off the mobs a little more quickly. Basically, it just relies on the mobs being able to see me and then track and pathfind over to me. It works well enough to get some experience, but as you can see, it's pretty slow. It doesn't really take advantage of the spawner mechanics that will maximize our spawns. First order of business is to see exactly where this spawner is. So let's dig this out. And we have 3 blocks of dirt above it. This is probably about as close to the surface as you can get it. And here's the hole we just made, looking down on the spawner. Now, spawner mechanics are well known. The player needs to be within 16 blocks of the spawner in order for it to be active. And we can see this light blue sphere that I've created here with the mini HUD overlay. And it doesn't really go very far. So my plan was to put the build essentially directly on top of this spawner. I think this is where we need to make the floor of the build so that when the player is standing here, they will still activate the spawner. Now, I talked about crazy ideas for this build. What exactly am I thinking? Well, picture this. A dark church filled with enigmatic clerics practicing some magic that's unknown. The people of the village know of its existence, but rarely speak of it. And the source of that magic? Well, the spawner here. Or is it the result? Sometimes we don't know. I like it. I like it. All right, so yeah, I'm thinking of a big black church full of deep slate, and if I had it, black stone and other dark colors. Basically a big, kind of an evil church cult. But not necessarily evil, because they don't hate the villagers. They just more or less worship the zombies that come out of the ground somehow. Now, I also want this to be functional. First of all, as a mob spawner, but second of all, I want to bring those clerics that we've got over there in those. We've got 3 different cleric structures over there in the town, and I want to bring those guys over and set them up in the church. So the clerics are right here to trade away that rotten flesh that you collect. And thirdly, I want to set up another enchanting setup here, enchanting table setup here, so that you can use those XP levels, those levels that you get as XP. But the bottom line is, if this is the floor of the church, we got a lot of terraforming to do. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that sooner or later. Later. So this is going to be a big building project. For now, I want to focus on getting the mob grinder set up and going over that. But I need to be able to figure out which direction it needs to be oriented. and how I'm going to build this church, which direction the church is going to be oriented. I think I I naturally I think I want it to point toward the village. So the doors, this would be the spawner area would be essentially the main worship area, if you will, for the church, and the doors of the church would be over this direction. I think I like that. This hill is going to have to get terraformed quite a bit, but my ultimate plan, is to have the mobs as they get spawned in by the XP spawner or by the mob spawner be pushed around by water, eventually go into a bubble column, and somehow land up here on this level inside the main area of the church. And all of this spawner business is just hidden away. Given that I haven't been to the Nether yet, I don't have soul sand. That's not in the cards right now. But we can start working on the build of the church, and separately, we can work on clearing out and building the mob grinder itself here. So that's where we're going to focus on first. The mobs can spawn within the 2 blocks above the spawner and 4 blocks in each direction. So we need to clear out all of this cobblestone around the spawner and make it all vacant space so that when the mobs spawn, they fall down. Now the mobs can spawn 2 blocks below the spawner as well. So we need to dig out down here. But the mob spawner has its own mob cap so that it doesn't make too many mobs too fast. If there are a certain number of zombies within that area, it will stop spawning. So in order to maximize spawns, what we further need to do is dig out 2 more blocks so that when the zombies do spawn, they fall down to this level where they're out of that mob cap, and the spawner can then create more spawns. So this is a lot of digging that has to go on to clear out this space. Now, once the zombies are down to this level, we have to utilize water to push them around. And we have to know there will be a front and a back, basically. The water goes at the back and they push them to the front. You can make the front any side you want. So you can have the water sources all over here and push the zombies over here, or vice versa. And that's where I'm trying to figure out which direction it needs to go. But for now, I think the task is to simply clear out the area and give us a blank canvas to work from. So let me go do that and we'll be right back. And that's done. I put blocks on top of the spawner itself in order to keep mobs from spawning and standing on the spawner. We want the mobs to spawn in midair, fall down to the ground, and then be pushed in some direction by the water streams. But for right now, we've got just a 9 by 9 by 9 square, more or less centered on that spawner area. And if I were to take out the torches, we should start seeing spawns down here. Boom! All of a sudden, we got spawns. They should be down below the normal range of the spawner and out of the spawner mob cap. So next time around, the spawner tries to spawn more, it should succeed and drop more in. So let's just hold on and wait for that. There they go. All right. It's spawned more in, and we're getting a bigger group down there. Let's wait again and see it happen again.
A few moments later.
All right, well, that test failed because I went and re-looked up the rules, and the mob cap for the spawner is within a 9 by 9 by 9 area around the spawner itself. So the current floor is 4 blocks below the spawner, which means the zombies that we had standing here counted toward the mob cap. Now it did a second spawn generation that we saw because it will allow up to 6 mobs within this area, and the first spawn attempt generated 3 or 4, I don't remember. So the second spawn attempt generated more, and we had over 6. And so then there were no more spawns that happened after that. So in order to remove the mobs from the mob cap, we got to go down another 2 blocks. So now when the mobs spawn, they'll fall all the way down to that level and be outside of the mob cap area, and I'll free it up to spawn some more. So let's get that done. All right, that is now done. I've got to start being careful because I think the light level down there, you see the corners are very, very dark. If I walk away, normal mobs could spawn there just because, not because of the spawner, but because the light level is so low. But let's give this a shot. Let's, boom, there's 4, and they fall all the way down. Now the spawner waits 10 to 40 seconds before spawning more. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see the next batch spawn. There we go. Now we've got 8. Okay, so this is above the mob cap of the spawner, but they should be out of the mob cap range. So now we get to wait again to see if more will spawn in 10 to 40 seconds. And there we go. So now this spawner is working like a charm. It will keep on spawning as long as we're nearby. The next step will be coming up with a way to get all these zombies out of here and where we want them to go. Ah, this is satisfying. The task at this point is to figure out which direction we want the zombies to go so that we can push them with water. A normal water bucket will flow 8 blocks in any direction. So given this is a 9x9 chamber, it means it'll go almost all the way to the edge. If we take and put water sources all along this edge, it'll produce a straight line of force, bringing them all the way over to this 1 block area at the edge of the chamber. So, in order to push the zombies around, we need to dig out this 1 block trench and put some more water sources in here. So, once the water pushes the zombies into this trough, what we want to have happen is for it to push the zombies to either one side or another. There we go. Put the water in that corner and it will push the zombies all the way to this corner. Not quite, but almost all the way. So in order to make it go all the way, let's go down another block. So once we're pushing the zombies all the way over here, we're essentially pushing them out of the spawning chamber, and we got to take them into the killing chamber. Or, well, eventually it will be a water elevator that goes up into the church main itself. But at this point, I'm going to actually dig myself a tunnel out so that I have another way to get into the killing chamber. All right, well, it's crude but effective right now. We've got a small staircase going down to the end of the water flow and into the chamber. So at this point, I want to go ahead and put in all the water flows and block up this wall so that we're not coming in this way anymore. There we go. And the water will flow all the way over to the edge here before falling down into the trough. I put this over here to help us see what we're doing. So now I can take that out and we'll ride this all the way down into the killing chamber. What do we need in a killing chamber? First and foremost, you need the zombies to not be able to get to you. So we put a block here to keep the adult zombies from getting through. Now, the baby zombies can still get through in this little space. So if we put a half slab here, this will stop the baby zombies from getting through and stop the water flow from getting into the chamber and filling us up. So if this is where the zombies are going to stand, then we need a hopper right here for them to stand on in order to collect their goodies. Just like that. You might even want to take this down a little bit more so that you're swinging up at the zombies' feet. That seems like that should work just fine. How about we give it a shot? Here we go. Bop that out, and there goes some zombies, along with our torch. They'll try to swim against the current, which is why he's bobbing over there, to try to get to me because they can see me. But that's okay. It's not going to work. There might be too much light coming from down there. That's something I really didn't think about. The spawner only works with light level 0 anymore, thanks to the changes in 1.18. So this pyramid of light that we're seeing against the far wall is actually affecting our spawn rates because it's lighting up the spawnable areas quite a bit. It looks like we're going to have to change things around. But in terms of the water flows and the spawner mechanisms, this seems to be working out just fine. The water is pushing all the zombies right to me. They can't get to me through this little half slab space, and all the drops are going into here. So this will work out just fine. The problem is, like I said, there's too much light making it into the chamber. I think that if we take away that torch, it's going to be pretty dark down here. We can maybe put it over there and not have so much light pollute into the chamber. All right, back at this point, popping off the torch. All right, we got a nice spawn of 3 zombies. Now we got to wait and see if the next set of spawns is going to happen. I do see some light spilling out over here, but this is significantly less than the amount of light that we had before, and it shouldn't, fingers crossed, be affecting with the spawn area too much. Well, it is working. I think that might be affecting it a little still, but remember, I haven't lit up the caves around here either, and so that's also going to have an effect on the spawn rate. We could make the zombies travel even further down this line to get further away from the spawning chamber. When it comes to the water elevator that's going to take them back up, I want that to be as close as possible, but we'll rebuild that whole thing later on when I finally make it to the nether and get soul sand and am able to try to do that. For now, I think we can do that. We'll have to rebuild the stairs leading down and whatnot in order to basically bring the whole killing chamber back a little bit further so that we don't get as much light leaking in. But it's worth a try. Well, this may be just a little too far. In theory, if I'm standing here, and my sphere is right, the spawner should still work. But we'll definitely have to test it out and find out. Now, what I did this time is I extended the water quite a ways. It was 4 or 5 blocks maybe. I could see that some XP was getting caught in the depression of the hopper. So I lowered the hopper by 1 block and put a slab on top of it. Now that meant that I needed full blocks all the way down in order to keep this half block gap so the baby zombies don't get through. The zombies should still get pushed all the way to the edge and then fall off this little half slab step. So, but definitely something we're going to have to try out. Now, just as a side note here, everything that we said about this zombie spawner works for skeleton spawners too. They have the same hitbox. Not spiders, however. Not everything here is going to work for spiders like it's going to work for these. And just like that, we've got a working zombie XP grinder. Now this area is very small and situated off to one side so that I can use it while we're building the rest of the church. But it's functional, and when the time comes, it can be adapted to bring the zombies up to the church like I was envisioning from the beginning. But in the meantime, perfectly functional, and we can get those levels that we need in order to continue the enchanting. Unfortunately, we used all the time in this episode to talk about the spawner and get that all working and functioning. And we really didn't get started on the church build up above. We'll have to wait for next time to get that done. Until then, remember, be excellent to each other.